going on. We've got a Ferkser jersey sighting. I also believe, is that Devontae Parker back there, Shregs? Did I miss that?
It is. Ferkser and Parker. No one says May football like Ferkser and Parker. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Mm-hmm. I notice you do not have a Chicago Bears jersey back there, but we'll start in Chicago this morning. It's time for Lead Block.
Lead Block.
Lead Block. Lead Block.
Let's do it. Our guy, Tom Pelissero, take a look at this. He reported over the weekend the Bears will not pick up Mitchell Trubisky's fifth-year option. These are the first-round top 5 quarterbacks since 2011, when the fifth-year option was created, and 2016 is when that ends. And that's all those guys on this list had their fifth-year option exercise. The one, the cheese stands alone in Mitchell Trubisky, and he, of course, was the second overall pick back in 2017. We also know Chicago brought in quarterback Nick Foles this offseason. So I ask you, Kyle, what will the Bears quarterback situation look like in 2020? And what does this situation do to our guy, the Tra?
It's not great for Mitch, and I think the biggest thing ever is that it was not a surprise this weekend. I don't find it a surprise at all, because there's no way they were going to extend a guy who literally might not never play another snap for the Bears. That's just a fact. Mr. Trubisky may never play a snap for the Chicago Bears again. He loses this competition. See you later. And when I say this competition, I cannot stress this enough. This is the real thing they're going to do here. This is not like, well, there's a rookie versus a veteran, or the coach kind of has their favorite. This is an honest-to-God, good old-fashioned one-on-one quarterback competition, so much so that Nagy has already said, look, they're getting equal reps with the ones. We are playing them in the preseason, which is a massive departure from what the Bears have done under Nagy. Nobody plays in the preseason. He came out already and said, we're seeing Nick, we're seeing Mitch, we're seeing everybody, and made the best man win. I don't know that that's Mr. Trubisky. One of the worst takes I've seen on him as apologists who say, well, he hasn't really gotten a fair shot. We got to give Mitch time. I don't know if anybody's paid attention. Mr. Trubisky has played 41 games for the Bears. 41. That's a lot. So unless he comes out like an absolute ninja in training camp and beats Nick Foles for the job, this could be a wrap.
41 games, that is a lot. That's a lot of football. And Mitchell Trubisky should also look at his resume. And I know it's not the strongest in the world, but he knows what it's like to have a winning season. He knows what it's like to make it to a Pro Bowl. So understand, if you're anchored in that, if you're anchored in the fact that you are confident in your game, this shouldn't shake you. This shouldn't waver you. This should be a situation that redefines you, not defines you. Oftentimes when a team brings in another person to compete for your spot or even take your spot, I've seen players cower. I've seen it at the quarterback position all the way down to the last man on the roster. Mitchell Trubisky should be in the situation right now where he understands, if I go out there and compete my butt off, whether I win the position or not, at least I send a message to the rest of the league. So for me, just go out there and understand that you have had some success. You just need to find consistency within that success moving forward.
It's really interesting with Trubisky because there's a history here of Trubisky in a quarterback competition, and it has nothing to do with Chase Daniel and the Chicago Bears. When Mitch Trubisky was in college, he was one of the highly recruited players out of the state of Ohio. Chose to go to the University of North Carolina, and everyone's like, wow, UNC landed Mitch Trubisky from Ohio? That's crazy. And then a guy named Marquise Williams beat him out for the job and never let it go until he graduated, and Trubisky eventually took over the next year. Marquise Williams started every game for UNC, was the guy, was the leader, never went on to having a decorated NFL career. I don't even know if he had a cup of coffee in the NFL. But Trubisky came in and had all of the hoopla and didn't beat out Marquise Williams for the job. So I now look at it. He gets a take two here. The coach, Matt Nagy, has history with Nick Foles. The offensive coordinator, Bill Lazor, has history with Nick Foles. The quarterback coach, John DeFilippo, has history with Nick Foles. Everyone thinks it's going to be Nick Foles. Well, Trubisky, go right the wrongs of the Marquise Williams situation at UNC and go shock the world. And when everyone else is writing you off, go win that job. You're the number 2 overall pick in the draft from a couple of years ago. Go win that job. I am fascinated to see how this plays out because I do think the odds and the chips are heavily stacked in Nick Foles' favor, whether they want to admit it or not. I feel like it is all about Nick Foles right now. And Trubisky, if he outplays him, they won't be able to deny it. They would have to start Trubisky.
Yeah, and I hope Trubisky's watching the show this morning and he says, I don't care, Schrags, about the coaching connections. I don't care. I'm a quarterback that was 19-10 over the past 2 years. I led my team to the playoffs. Oh, and guess what? I played the hell out of that game. I looked good. I'm Mitchell Trubisky. You took me in the draft, and I'm going to now prove that I don't care that my option wasn't picked up. I don't care that Nick Foles is in the locker room with me. I'm going to show you that I'm a franchise quarterback. I hope that's the way that he's looking at this situation. Okay, you guys are obsessed with the Jordan documentary. Everybody is. The Last Dance. We know that Jordan was the 3rd overall pick, you guys. That's back in 1984. That was behind Hakeem Olajuwon, a Hall of Famer, and this guy, Sam Bowie, who went down in NBA history as the guy drafted 1 pick ahead of Michael Jordan. So the Bears famously moved up to take Trubisky in a draft class which included Patrick Mahomes. Is Trubisky destined to be, Peter, the Sam Bowie of the NFL?
Yeah, in a weird way, because Charles Barkley was in that draft and there were other players in that draft. John Stockton was in that draft. It felt like Sam Bowie was really the target of a lot of shit. But I don't think it's just the Bears here who are going to feel this for the next decade. Look at all these other picks from pick 2 through pick 9. I mean, the 49ers passed on Patrick Mahomes. The Jaguars, don't you think they'd like to have Patrick Mahomes? The Titans, they really struck gold with Ryan Tannehill. Don't you think they'd rather have Patrick Mahomes? The Jets did get an all-pro safety, but they got a safety. They passed on a quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. Mike Williams is a 2nd, maybe 3rd wide receiver on a team that missed the playoffs last year. Don't you think the Chargers wish they took Patrick Mahomes? I'll give the Panthers a break. And then the Bengals, don't you think they wish they took Patrick Mahomes? Sam Bowie was the number 2 pick. Michael Jordan was the number 3 pick. Mitch Trubisky was the number 2 pick. But there are 7 other teams who could look at their GMs and their fan bases could look at the owners and say, how did we pass on Patrick Mahomes? Don't you think they would like to have him too? So I'm saying there's a slight difference. It's not just the Bears who are in the tank about this one. There are a lot of teams in that top 10 who passed on this guy.
That's a really well stated point, Peter. And I think the real loser in all this, of course, is the Portland Trailblazers, who said, well, we got Clyde Drexler. We didn't need Michael. Who cares? Clyde's out there wearing Avias. You can't draft Jordan. You should have done it anyway. Listen, I think this is a little premature to start hitting Mitch Trubisky with the Sam Bowie ultimate sledgehammer, all right?
Agreed.
There's a million of these. Dan McGuire was drafted before Brett Favre. Todd Blackledge in front of Jim Kelly and Dan Marino. Dwayne Haskins was drafted in front of Drew Lock. I mean, these things happen sometimes. I just think Mitch Trubisky can still play out this whole thing. If we're sitting here and Trubisky won the job, which he definitely could as a younger, better athlete who knows the system better, and they go 10-6 and he's back in the playoffs this year, then he's in the driver's seat. Then he could get franchised. Then he could get a long-term deal. This ain't written. It's too early. I understand we love the Jordan doc, but the Bowie sledgehammer in Trubisky is really strong, and I'm not swinging it.
I'm with you.
Kyle, I hear you on that, man. You saying Clyde Drexler had the George Jefferson hairline? Come on, man. Just draft Jordan, man. I mean, he's not ducking from the free throw line anymore. For me, though, I hear exactly what you're saying when it comes to Mitchell Trubisky. And here's the thing. I'll say this. Since everybody wants to beat up on Mitchell Trubisky, the Bears didn't pick up the 5th-year option. How about this? Maybe he does lose this quarterback competition because the team is a little bit more biased to Nick Foles. How about Mitch Trubisky goes somewhere else where they can utilize his talent? I know this might not be the best take or the hottest take this morning, but Mitch Trubisky, he can throw on the run. He's very athletic. He's a leader. He's quiet. He's understated. How about a team comes in or he goes to a team that has an offense coordinator, a head coach that can build something around that type of skill set? If you look at the success of some of these quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, you look at the success of Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, quarterbacks that can move within the pocket and throw on the run. It seems like they know how to call a game plan that's built around their quarterback's success and skill set. I feel like they should do that with Mitchell Trubisky. Maybe this is the best thing for him. He goes somewhere else and he finally lands on a team that knows how to use what he does best.
Or he does what Kyle is saying. I think we're all rooting for him. I think, knowing the Bears like we do a little bit, especially you, Kyle, you've worked preseason games with him. We've both been up there doing some philanthropic work. It's never been we don't like Mitchell Trubisky. It's never been he's not a great guy. It's almost been tiptoeing around maybe some of the other deficiencies that he has because of how well-liked he is in that building. That's at least the vibe that I get. I'll say this, and I'm totally with, I don't know if this is because we're both from Chicago or the Chicago area, Kyle, but I'm with you. Peyton Manning. You guys know what Peyton Manning did his rookie season? 3-13. 26 touchdowns, 28 interceptions. He didn't play in a playoff game until his 6th season in the NFL. So let's try to not write these players off. Dak Prescott included in that, Mitchell Trubisky, so quickly. So quickly, even though I know you as a Bears fan, Kyle, you want to see this team with a very good defense go far now.
Yeah, and honestly, I know Peter was saying earlier that some Bears fans want Foles. There is an army of Trubisky stans who want Mitch to work out. Nick Foles, we all love him. He's a mercenary. He's not a Chicago Bear. This is the number 2 overall pick in the draft, who the second he makes a big play on Soldier Field, the place will go nuts. They're dying